So, a couple years ago, Elden Ring was the biggest thing in gaming. And with the new Shadow of the Erd Tree DLC that just recently released, it seems that Elden Ring is back on everyone's radar. So, unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you've heard of it. I've heard of it, of course. But even though it won Game of the Year in 2022, and even though it's a third person action RPG, and I'm pretty into those, and even though it's connected to George R. Martin, the creator of Game of Thrones, there's a big reason I put off checking out Elden Ring. That is, that this game is a FromSoft game. Hold on, hear me out for just a damn second. That's to say, while I haven't played any of those, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro, I've heard of all of these games, and they are somewhat notorious for their extremely challenging combat. For some people, that could be a selling point. To me, not really. To be honest, challenging gameplay to me, it's kind of off-putting. It really depends. But I know with Dark Souls, I don't remember which Dark Souls game it was, but I remember watching a buddy of mine play one of them, like a couple years ago, just struggling to cross over this one stupid fucking bridge or something like that, and he just keeps getting shot at by these couple archers. He doesn't see them, they're just somewhere in the distance, over and over, and he keeps dying. I'm saying it's maybe like a 5-minute loop, and I watched him do this shit for like 2 hours straight, and I mean, eventually he did get past it, but guys, every day I'm inching closer to death. So if I'm playing something for 2 hours, I'm never getting that time back. So I want it to matter. Somewhat. Now that this new Elden Ring DLC is out, and literally the only thing I'm hearing about this shit is that it's really hard. Man, I don't know, man. But there is also so much about Elden Ring that just kept pulling me in, saying, try it. Play me. Whether it be the beautiful fantasy scenery with these absolutely gorgeous graphics, or rather just several people both in real life and online telling me, you should probably check out this game. So I did it. I did finally check out Elden Ring, and I even beat the first boss. Plus a lot of other little guys that are maybe not bosses. Maybe some of them are. I don't know. What specifically is considered a boss? Is that just when the health bar is on the bottom? I don't know. Well, one thing I do know for sure, I do have a lot of questions. So here are my thoughts on Elden Ring after about 30 or 40 hours. First off, I love fantasy RPGs. Elder Scrolls, Baldur's Gate, Dragon Age, even going back all the way to like Diablo and Warcraft. Fantasy RPGs and me, we go way back. So with the dark fantasy setting of Elden Ring, I was pretty certain I was going to be right at home with this. And absolutely I was. Before playing, all I really knew was that George R. Martin was involved with the story, and I was building up all kinds of hype for that. But now that I've actually played the game, I can see that his role was more involved in the world building than the actual narrative here. As the narrative, well, there's not much of one, really. There is a story here, but the world is in a very chaotic state, and basically everything wants to kill you. While there is some story there, it's not really the point. At least the point of the gameplay. That's to say that Elden Ring is a massive open-world RPG, and I've played quite a few of these over the years, but for whatever reason, in my mind, I was thinking this game would be more along the lines of like a Skyrim or something, but it's really more of a Breath of the Wild style open world. That is to say, I thought there would be much more of an emphasis on questing and interacting with NPCs. Maybe there would be tons of towns, or maybe there'd only be a couple hub towns, but I kind of figured we'd be dealing with factions and guilds and all that typical RPG stuff. But in Elden Ring, you're just dropped into this world, given very little direction, and you just go, explore, and you kill stuff. Very early on, you will discover everything wants to kill you before you kill them first. So, well, nearly everyone. Even though I have now met a handful of NPCs, they're really few and far between. And equally cryptic as with anything else in this game. If you see something in the distance, chances are, no matter how small or how big it is, it ain't friendly. And that can be fun too. That just means we're playing a different kind of game than I was expecting going in. I do imagine a lot of that comes from, well, this is far away from my first open world game, but this is my first From Software game. And I'm just assuming here, but perhaps this everything wants to kill you concept, that might be a common theme in their games. So perhaps with Elden Ring here, this is more of the natural progression of an open world style game, continuing the concepts that you would have found in something like a Dark Souls. But also with that, with the world being more of a Breath of the Wild style, what I mean by that is that, at least from what I've seen so far, you're exploring this beautiful world with very little to go off of, and as you get murdered over and over, you'll start to make little landmarks along the way. Over here, you'll find there's a giant crazy fucking troll who wants to kill you in one hit. Up here, you'll find the guy on the horse who will ruin your life if he spots you. He can't see me, right? I think he sees me. Oh, fuck, he definitely sees me. You fucking asshole. I blocked it! Why is everything so... Why does everything want to kill me so bad? And you'll learn routes to avoid these kind of interactions. You'll spot your eye on something cool looking in the distance, and you'll say, oh, should I go over here yet? Probably not, but fuck it, I'm gonna try anyway. And, you know, you'll see these giant trees everywhere in the distance, along with what looks like castles and towers kind of clouded over. This is a very foggy, misty world. But you'll find that if you see something, if you find an interesting sight in the distance, you can almost always work your way over to it, assuming you can make it there safely. And the mystery is always, you know, what is it going to look like from the other side? And what's going to be there waiting for me to kill me when I get there? From what I've seen so far, I've been through some mountains, some grasslands, poisonous swamps, beaches, and hell on earth. I'm excited to see more of what the world has to offer, and I'm kind of feeling that that's where I'm getting a lot of fun out of this game so far anyway. You know, the world is absolutely just gorgeous, and, you know, I'm really enjoying uncovering the map, for the most part anyway. As far as the story goes, I have no clue what's going on most of the time. I can probably explain what I do understand in about 2 sentences. You are a tarnished. Don't really know what that is, but whatever. And your god brought you back to life to go kill stuff and become a champion, I think. There's also something about a ring, but it's not... If you're thinking like Lord of the Rings, no, not that kind of ring. Anyway, so you are the tarnished, and you go out, and you have to kill stuff to become the Elden Lord. Whatever that entails, I do not really know, but I can assume that it probably rules, and it probably pays a lot more than your current job as a wretch. So I'll be honest here, it's been about 40 hours now, and that's still about all I really understand. You do run into the occasional NPC, as I've said, and they even do give you quests. But unfortunately, and this would be my biggest issue with the game so far, is that there is no quest log. Have fun keeping track of that. If you're someone whose main thing in games is a strong narrative, then to be honest, maybe Elden Ring isn't going to be the game for you. Generally speaking, I do really enjoy a good story. But with Elden Ring, the gameplay is satisfying enough that it's been keeping me going, even though I barely understand who I'm destroying or why it's happening. So, let's talk about the gameplay a little bit, because obviously this is the main focus here. With Elden Ring, when you start up your character, you can pick from a few different builds, and they've got almost all of your standard RPG classes that you can pick from here. If you want to go with a magic user, there's that. If you want to go with a dexterity-driven assassin, kind of faster character, you can definitely do that. You could be a knight with a sword and shield. If you want to have a big-ass weapon, there's that. And, so once you've built your perfect character, you're dropped right into the world with a short optional tutorial that you can use to go over controls, and then you are off. As you explore, you'll find that the world is segmented off into smaller areas with their own individual maps that you have to find. That's not to say that you can't explore beyond the boundaries of the map, but you won't see any of the details and stuff like that. Eventually, you will come across a spectral horse that you can summon, and that will help with some of the navigation, of course, because this horse gets around a lot better than you, and he even comes with a double jump. Your main thing here early on, you're going to be just kind of exploring, trying to find new sites of grace where you can rest at and recover health. And this is also where you can spend your experience points that you gain from, killing these guys. And this is also where you can upgrade your healing options, as well as provides you with a bunch of other options. These function as your waypoints across the world map as well. And they also let you occasionally talk to this mysterious hot chick. I would like to know more about her. But let's talk about difficulty, because that's why you guys are really here. Elden Ring, it's a hard game. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's challenging anyway. I don't know. At least in those early levels, the game is made to wreck you. Strong enemies will take you out in just a couple good hits. And I don't even mean strong enemies. I mean weak enemies will take you out in a couple of good hits, but they're what you consider strong at the time. And if they manage to outnumber you and you're underleveled, then it's pretty much game over unless you can just hightail it the hell out of there and just run away, which I learned is a surprisingly good strategy, as running away, it seems like once you get a good distance, most enemies don't keep pursuing you. If you do die, you will lose your runes, which are essentially your experience points, but also serve as your money and your upgrade points. Your runes are your everything, so you do not want to lose them. If you can successfully return to the spot that you died, you will thankfully find them, but if you die before you make it back, then they are lost for good. So what I have learned here is, if you have enough points for a level up, just spend it right away. There's no point in saving these, as it's kind of risky not to. But once you do start getting some levels on your shoulders, you'll find things start opening up pretty nicely. Granted, I am playing as a strength-forward, kind of tanky kind of build, but I have found that with Elden Ring, they do allow you to make a big dumb guy, hit things hard kind of character. I wasn't sure if I would be able to do that. With RPGs that let you pick classes, generally speaking, I do like to play as a guy with a big dumb sword. Great swords are just cool. I can't help that. I can't help that I feel that way. With Elden Ring, two-handing a giant axe, a giant club, great swords, these all feel pretty damn good. Slow, but they pack some serious heat. I think so far I do like two-handing these big-ass weapons, but I'm also curious about, I think once I get enough points into strength, I could essentially have two great axes and dual wield them. That's rather interesting. But I have spent a little time also messing around with a great sword and a shield combo, as I am kind of interested in trying to learn how these parries work. But so far for me, the parry doesn't feel nearly as reliable and safe as the dodge roll. Kind of reverse Stellar Blade, actually, where in that game, parries are king, and the roll is way riskier. With Elden Ring, I kind of learned that you gotta roll. But you also have to roll forward, too, with most of the time anyway, as I have, at least from what I've seen so far, rolling backwards or to the side even usually puts you right into the enemy's attack. As far as stats go, well, I've been kind of just playing it safe with, switching between strength and vigor. Vigor, of course, which is your HP pool. And occasionally I do put a point into endurance for better gear, and dexterity occasionally as well, as that plays into some of the weapons that you can equip. So far, that's taken me pretty far. Anyway, Is it too hard? I don't know. Because if you would have asked me about 10 or maybe 15, 20-ish hours in, I probably would have said it's pretty damn hard. Because at that point, I was absolutely getting stomped in this fight against Margit. Over and over. This motherfucker killed me so many damn times, it's not even fair. I wanted to be the cool guy and just, go in, take him on blindly, as that's, pretty much how I was approaching the game until this point, and I hadn't really run into any issues. But that seemed to get me nowhere. When my coworker brought up Elden Ring and asked me, how it was going, I said that I had no clue what was going on ever in the game, but I was stuck on a fight against this Margit son of a bitch, and he said, go find this merchant, and then he'll sell you an item. It's like a shackle or something that you can use to slow him down. So I went and I did that. Came back only to find that this shackle, the shackle, it only works during the first phase of the boss fight. Are you fucking kidding me? What's the point then? The second phase of the fight is the only one that matters. He never once killed me during the first phase of the fight. So, it's his second psycho-ass phase where he goes crazy. I took that as a sign to go explore elsewhere and maybe return later. So eventually I did take out Margit, and that was through using pretty much every tool at my disposal. I had these jellyfish, I summoned them, and I did shackle them early on, even though it really felt like it barely mattered. I still did it, and then I jump slashed his ass to death, and it was tough. It was tough as hell, but damn, did that victory feel good. After you manage to take out Margit, this opens up the whole Stormvale castle to explore, which was surprisingly confusing to navigate. I will say, I was getting lost in here, so I would take it off in chunks, leave for a while, explore some of the open world, come back, and eventually I did find out the correct route to Godric, who I think is the actual boss of the castle, not Margit. Well, then who the fuck was that guy, and what was his problem? Whatever. Made my way to Godric, and this guy went down like nothing. I don't even understand, because I feel like I only gained a couple levels between the two fights. And I think really the only big difference was just leveling up my my weapons a bit more. So I think maybe it's safe to say that leveling up your gear seems far more impactful than simply putting a few more points into your strength or whatever your main stat is. Well, anyway, so is Elden Ring hard? I don't know. Editing DBC here. I didn't really like the original ending I recorded, so let's do that over. Here's the thing, though. I'm even further now. I'm about level 50 now, and I've gotten a pretty sizable piece of the map taken care of. I had made it to a point where I was kind of aimlessly wandering around, making no real progress towards any of the major bosses, but it was still pretty fun working my way around everything. But eventually I just had to Google next boss after Godric, because I feel like just exploring blindly, I was starting to lose steam. This is a very fun game, and a rewarding game when you're taking on these crazy fights. And the world, it feels so big, but sometimes it's a little too big, and everything is just so cryptic that I'm not sure if I can really recommend playing completely blind. 100% in the beginning of the game, you definitely want to go into a fresh playthrough completely blind. I would recommend that until you kind of get stuck. I guess that's basically what happened to me. Now, I could have probably spent another 10 or 20 hours wandering around aimlessly until I found some sort of appropriate leveled big boss fight. I don't know if that would have happened on its own. So luckily, I did find this map here online, and it kind of shows you what appropriate level you should be for each area. And this is exactly what I was looking for. Now, I don't want to be looking up where to go every half hour or even really every hour. That's just kind of a boring way to play a game, I think. And it kind of defeats the whole point of an open world. by its own design, you should be exploring however you feel. But by this game's own design, it feels a little bit too obtuse at times, to the point where if I need to look up where to find a key to some door, I'm gonna do it. And I don't think I'm gonna feel bad about doing it. I do feel like at some points, this game can feel a little bit too directionless, because there's so little story going on that doesn't really point you where to go. And I know the main thing is just to fight stuff and kill stuff, but it's pretty easy to get lost in here, and the lack of a quest log, man, I still can't get behind that. Will I be beating Elden Ring? Probably. I'll definitely keep going. Will it be too hard? I don't think that's going to be the problem. So far, it's been pretty good, and I've had a lot of fun finding new weapons and leveling up my character, so I don't think that's what I'm going to get tired on. I think, if anything, I'll be a little bit worn out by some of the exploration, because this is a long game, and the world is huge. So, I mean, I'm going to get back at it, and hopefully I'll be back in another 50 hours or so to let you guys know what I think. That said, if I were to drop the game tomorrow, I still think the experience I had would have been well worth it. I don't beat every open world game that I play, but I can definitely still appreciate them. And if you're someone who doesn't feel particularly great at gaming, but you do like open world games, and you like RPGs and fantasy stuff, and maybe you've heard how hard Elden Ring is, and you're on the fence, I'd say still give it a shot. I mean, honestly, even if I was really getting stuck on that Margit fight, I do feel like I could have spent another 10 or 20 hours exploring the open world, having a good time doing it, and gone back and just been even more leveled up and taken them out just purely by leveling up. And I don't know, somebody in my chat a couple nights ago said that the level cap is 750. I'm not going to look up if that's true or not, but if that's the case, then, I mean, just level up, right? That's the end of this video. I will see you guys in the next one.